In the quiet town of Springdale, Colorado, the brutal murder of Thomas Blackwood sent shockwaves through the community. This is the story of a man whose carefully constructed facade hid a complex web of secrets, ultimately leading to his untimely demise. Thomas Blackwood was a 43-year-old real estate agent living in Springdale, a picturesque town nestled in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. Known for his charm and professionalism, Thomas was a familiar face in the community, often seen cruising around in his sleek black Mercedes, showcasing homes to potential buyers. His license plate, which read Home Pro, was a testament to his dedication to his craft. Married to Sophia, the local high school principal, Thomas seemed to have it all. The couple lived in a spacious two-story house on Maple Street, complete with a meticulously maintained lawn that was the envy of the neighborhood. They were fixtures at local events, sponsoring little league teams and attending church services every Sunday. Thomas had a stepson, Lucas, who was studying psychology at the local community college. To the outside world, Thomas Blackwood appeared to be living the American dream. He had graduated from the University of Colorado with a business degree and had built a successful career in real estate over the past 2 decades. His neighbors often saw him tending to his garden, always ready with a friendly wave and a warm smile. Thomas and Sophia were known for their involvement in charity fundraisers and community events, presenting an image of the perfect couple. However, beneath this carefully crafted exterior, Thomas Blackwood harbored dark secrets that would ultimately lead to his downfall. For the past 2 years, he had been engaged in a hidden relationship with his stepson, Lucas. This clandestine affair was a source of immense stress and guilt for Thomas, who lived in constant fear of discovery. But Lucas was not the only skeleton in Thomas's closet. Through his work as a real estate agent, Thomas had been meeting other men for intimate encounters, using the empty houses he showed as secret rendezvous points. This double life created an enormous amount of tension for Thomas, who struggled to maintain his public persona while juggling his hidden desires. In the days leading up to his death, Thomas was busier than ever. He was closing deals, meeting clients, and spending long hours at the office. Despite the mounting pressure, he was looking forward to a weekend getaway to the Bahamas with Sophia, hoping it would provide a much-needed respite from his troubles. He was also planning to attend a 4th of July barbecue at a friend's house, eager for a chance to unwind and catch up with old acquaintances. Those who knew Thomas described him as charismatic and charming. He had a knack for making people feel at ease and valued. But behind his friendly exterior, Thomas was a man in turmoil. The guilt of his affair with Lucas and the constant lies weighed heavily on him. He lived in fear of Sophia discovering his secrets, knowing it would destroy their marriage and ruin his standing in the community. As the pressure mounted, Thomas found it increasingly difficult to maintain his facade. His dreams of a perfect life were slowly unraveling, setting the stage for a tragic and violent end. On June 22, 2009, Sophia Blackwood returned home early from work, looking forward to a quiet evening of Netflix and reading. As she entered their house on Maple Street, everything seemed normal at first. She called out for Thomas but received no response. A sense of unease crept over her as she made her way to the basement, where Thomas often worked on his real estate files or watched documentaries. The basement door was slightly ajar, an unusual sight that made Sophia's heart race. She called out again, louder this time, but was met with silence. As she descended the stairs, the scene that greeted her was one of unimaginable horror. Thomas's lifeless body lay sprawled on the floor, surrounded by clear signs of a violent struggle. Blood stained the carpet and furniture, and Thomas's face was bruised and battered. A designer belt was wrapped tightly around his neck, the instrument of his demise. Sophia's scream of terror pierced the quiet afternoon. She rushed to Thomas's side, desperately trying to revive him, but it was too late. In a state of shock, she fumbled for her phone and dialed 911, her voice cracking with emotion as she spoke to the operator. Sophia's neighbor, Emily Thompson, heard the commotion and came to investigate. She found Sophia sitting on the front steps, sobbing uncontrollably. Emily stayed with her, offering what comfort she could while they waited for the police to arrive. The discovery of Thomas Blackwood's body sent ripples of shock through Springdale. As news of the murder spread, neighbors and friends gathered outside the Blackwood home, struggling to comprehend the tragedy that had struck their seemingly idyllic community. Detective Michael Harding of the Springdale Police Department arrived at the scene at 3:30 p.m. A seasoned investigator known for his meticulous approach, Detective Harding quickly took charge of the situation. The Blackwood residence was soon surrounded by police cars, with yellow crime scene tape marking off the area. As Detective Harding entered the basement, he was confronted with the grim reality of Thomas Blackwood's final moments. The designer belt around the victim's neck, the signs of struggle, and the blood spatter told a story of violence and desperation. The police began their thorough investigation, photographing the scene from various angles and collecting evidence. The belt used in the murder was carefully bagged, and forensic experts searched for fingerprints and other clues that might lead to the killer. Detective Harding noted the overturned furniture and other indicators of a fierce struggle, suggesting that Thomas had fought hard for his life. Forensic specialists used luminol to detect blood traces and collected samples for DNA analysis. They combed the area for hair, fibers, and any other potential evidence that could shed light on the killer's identity. While the brutality of the crime shocked even the most experienced officers, they remained focused on their task, determined to uncover the truth behind Thomas Blackwood's murder. Detective Harding's first step was to interview Sophia Blackwood. Still in shock from discovering her husband's body, Sophia recounted her day and the horrifying moment she found Thomas. Her account was detailed and emotional, but she insisted she had no idea who could have committed such a heinous act. Sophia's alibi was quickly verified, as she had been at work at the time of the murder. The police then began canvassing the neighborhood. They spoke with Emily Thompson, who described hearing Sophia's screams and finding her distraught on the front steps. Other neighbors mentioned seeing Thomas earlier in the day, but nothing had seemed out of the ordinary. As part of their investigation, the police examined Thomas's recent phone and email records. What they discovered added a new layer of complexity to the case. Several suspicious messages and calls suggested that Thomas had been meeting various men for illicit encounters. This revelation pointed to potential motives related to Thomas's hidden life, opening up new avenues of investigation. As day turned to night, Detective Harding and his team continued their work, determined to find the person responsible for Thomas Blackwood's brutal murder. The community of Springdale watched anxiously, hoping for answers and justice for a man they thought they knew. Little did they realize that unraveling the mystery of Thomas Blackwood's death would expose a web of secrets, lies, and hidden desires that would shake their quiet town to its very core. The investigation was just beginning, and the truth, when finally revealed, would be more shocking than anyone could have imagined. The investigation into Thomas Blackwood's murder began in earnest the day after his body was discovered. The first suspect to be brought in for questioning was his wife, Sophia Blackwood. At 42 years old, Sophia was a respected figure in Springdale, known for her work as the high school principal. She had been with the school district for over a decade and was heavily involved in community activities. On June 23, 2009, Detective Michael Harding led the interrogation of Sophia Blackwood. Despite her exhaustion and visible distress, Sophia maintained her composure as she answered the detective's questions. She recounted her activities on the day of the murder, describing her routine at work and the shocking discovery of Thomas's body when she returned home. As the questioning progressed, Detective Harding delved into the nature of Sophia and Thomas's relationship. Sophia admitted that while they had a strong partnership, they had faced some challenges recently. However, she insisted she had been completely unaware of Thomas's secret life and his affairs with other men. Sophia's alibi was solid. Her presence at the school throughout the day of the murder was confirmed by colleagues and security footage. Nevertheless, her connection to the victim kept her as a person of interest in the investigation. Detective Harding explored potential motives, considering that Thomas's affairs could have threatened both Sophia's reputation and career. However, Sophia firmly denied any involvement in the murder, maintaining her innocence throughout the questioning. She cooperated fully with the investigation, providing access to her phone and emails as requested. A thorough search of the Blackwood home yielded no incriminating evidence linking Sophia to the crime, further supporting her statements. After several hours of questioning, Sophia was released, but remained under police scrutiny as the investigation continued. The next suspect to be brought in was Lucas Blackwood, Thomas's 21-year-old stepson. Lucas, a psychology student at the local community college, had a troubled past marked by stints in rehab and struggles with substance abuse. Despite these challenges, he had been working hard to turn his life around, maintaining a part-time job as a bartender while pursuing his studies. On June 24, 2009, Lucas arrived at the police station for questioning. Detective Harding, aware of the delicate nature of Lucas's relationship with his stepfather, approached the interrogation with caution. Lucas appeared nervous but willing to cooperate, ready to share his side of the story. During the questioning, Lucas made a shocking admission. He revealed that he had been involved in a secret relationship with Thomas for the past 2 years. This affair had recently ended when Lucas discovered that Thomas had been unfaithful, meeting numerous other men for encounters in the very homes he showed as a real estate agent. Lucas described feeling conflicted and manipulated throughout the relationship with Thomas. He expressed a mix of anger and sadness, feeling betrayed not only by the affair itself but also by Thomas's lies and manipulation. Despite his resentment, Lucas adamantly denied any involvement in Thomas's murder. To support his innocence, Lucas provided an alibi for the night of the murder. He claimed to have been working his shift at the local bar, which was later confirmed by his co-workers and patrons. Detective Harding pressed further, exploring Lucas's possible motives. While the young man's history of emotional turmoil and substance abuse raised concerns, his recent efforts to stay sober and focus on his studies painted a different picture. Lucas was open about his struggles and his desire to move forward, away from the toxic relationship with Thomas. The police examined Lucas's electronic devices and social media accounts, searching for any evidence that might link him to the crime. While they found messages between Lucas and Thomas that revealed tension and conflict, nothing directly implicated Lucas in the murder. Lucas's DNA was found at the crime scene, but as he lived in the house, this was not unexpected. His cooperation and consistent alibi made it difficult for the police to consider him as the primary suspect. After several hours of questioning, Lucas was released, but he remained a key figure in the ongoing investigation. The third suspect brought in for questioning was Natalie Ramirez, a 30-year-old waitress with a fiery temper and a history of confrontations with Thomas Blackwood. Natalie's connection to the case stemmed from a shocking incident that had occurred several months earlier. On June 25, 2009, Detective Harding interviewed Natalie at the police station. Natalie entered the interrogation room with a defiant expression, clearly prepared to defend herself. As the questioning began, she revealed the source of her animosity towards Thomas. Natalie explained that she had caught Thomas in an intimate encounter with her husband during a house viewing. This discovery had led to the end of her marriage and sparked a series of heated confrontations with Thomas. She admitted to despising him for ruining her marriage and causing her immense emotional pain. Detective Harding asked about Natalie's whereabouts on the day of the murder. She stated that she had been working a double shift at a local diner called Sonny's. Her alibi was quickly verified by her manager and co-workers, who confirmed her presence at the diner throughout the day. Despite her solid alibi, Detective Harding explored Natalie's possible motives further. Her intense anger towards Thomas was evident, but she insisted that she had moved on and was focusing on rebuilding her life. Natalie shared that she was taking night classes at the community college, aspiring to become a social worker and help others who had experienced similar struggles. The police searched Natalie's home and car but found nothing suspicious or incriminating. Her phone records and social media activity showed no recent contact with Thomas, further supporting her claims of non-involvement. Throughout the interrogation, Natalie remained composed despite her obvious disdain for Thomas. She answered all questions directly and showed no signs of guilt or deception. After several hours of questioning, Natalie was released, but the police continued to monitor her activities, aware that her past with Thomas still made her a potential suspect. As the investigation into Thomas Blackwood's murder progressed, Detective Harding and his team found themselves navigating an increasingly complex web of secrets and lies. Each interview revealed new layers of Thomas's hidden life, painting a picture of a man who had carefully compartmentalized different aspects of his existence. The revelations about Thomas's affairs and manipulative behavior shocked the community of Springdale. Friends and neighbors who had known Thomas for years struggled to reconcile the charismatic, successful real estate agent they thought they knew with the man whose secrets were now coming to light. Despite the progress made in understanding Thomas's complicated life, the police were still no closer to identifying his killer. The evidence collected at the crime scene had yet to provide a definitive lead, and each suspect interviewed had a plausible alibi. Detective Harding knew that somewhere in the tangled web of Thomas Blackwood's relationships lay the key to solving this case. As June drew to a close, the investigation continued, with the police determined to uncover the truth and bring Thomas's killer to justice. Little did they know that a crucial piece of evidence was about to come to light, one that would break the case wide open and reveal the shocking truth behind Thomas Blackwood's brutal murder. On June 28, 2009, the investigation into Thomas Blackwood's murder took a dramatic turn. It was a sweltering summer day in Springdale, Colorado, with temperatures soaring into the high 80s. At approximately 10 a.m., Detective Michael Harding received an urgent call from the forensic lab that would change the course of the investigation. The lab technicians, while re-examining items from the crime scene, had made a startling discovery. Hidden among Thomas Blackwood's belongings was a small camera disguised as a smoke detector, installed in the basement where the murder had taken place. This covert device had been recording the basement's activities for several weeks, capturing Thomas's secret meetings and interactions. Detective Harding and his team immediately retrieved the footage, their hearts racing with anticipation. As they reviewed the recordings, they found what they had been searching for: a video from the day of the murder. The footage revealed a heated argument between Thomas and his stepson, Lucas Blackwood, which quickly escalated into a physical altercation. The video showed Lucas, in a fit of rage, grabbing the designer belt from a nearby chair and using it to choke Thomas. The entire incident was captured on camera, providing irrefutable evidence of Lucas's involvement in the murder. The team was stunned by the brutality of the act and the clear motive of anger and betrayal that drove it. Armed with this new evidence, Detective Harding contacted Lucas and requested that he come to the station for further questioning. Lucas arrived, unaware of the damning video evidence against him. As the interrogation began, Detective Harding confronted Lucas with the footage. The effect on Lucas was immediate and profound. His initially calm demeanor crumbled, replaced by panic and desperation. Realizing he had been caught, Lucas broke down and confessed to the murder of his stepfather. Through his tears, Lucas explained the events that led to that fateful moment. He described feeling trapped in the relationship with Thomas, manipulated by both his stepfather and his mother, Sophia. The constant deceit and Thomas's infidelity had pushed Lucas to his breaking point. In a moment of uncontrollable rage, he had taken Thomas's life, seeing it as the only way to free himself from the suffocating situation. Detective Harding carefully documented Lucas's confession, ensuring every detail was recorded. The combination of the video evidence and Lucas's admission left no doubt about his guilt. The police now had a clear picture of the events leading up to Thomas Blackwood's murder and the complex web of secrets and lies that had surrounded the case. On June 29, 2009, just before noon, the Springdale Police Department made their move. With Lucas Blackwood's confession and the incriminating video evidence in hand, Detective Harding and his team prepared to make the arrest. Lucas, a 21-year-old college student and part-time bartender, had been living a life of inner turmoil and confusion. Despite his attempts to overcome his troubled past, the intense emotional pressure from his affair with his stepfather and his mother's manipulations had driven him to a breaking point. When the police arrived at Lucas's apartment, they found him pale and exhausted, seemingly resigned to his fate. He was handcuffed and read his rights, showing little emotion as he was led to the police car. A few curious onlookers watched silently as the scene unfolded in their quiet neighborhood. Back at the station, Lucas was formally charged with the murder of Thomas Blackwood. Detective Harding conducted a final interview to document all the details of Lucas's confession. Lucas reiterated his feelings of being trapped and manipulated by Thomas and pressured by his mother, Sophia. He described the events leading up to the murder, including the violent argument that had escalated into the fatal attack. Sophia Blackwood, Thomas's wife and Lucas's mother, was also brought in for questioning. The investigation had revealed that Sophia had known about the affair between Thomas and Lucas for months. She had pressured Lucas to continue the relationship, fearing that Thomas's reckless sexual behavior would ruin her chances in an upcoming election for school superintendent. While Sophia was not directly involved in the murder, her deception and manipulation added a layer of complexity to the case. The arrest of Lucas Blackwood and the revelations about the family's secrets sent shockwaves through the community of Springdale. Those who had known the Blackwoods struggled to reconcile the image of the perfect family with the reality of their hidden lives. The case exposed a world of manipulation, betrayal, and tragic consequences that lay beneath the surface of their seemingly idyllic existence. The trial of Lucas Blackwood began on August 10, 2009, in the Springdale County Courthouse. The small-town courtroom was packed with family members, local residents, and media representatives, all eager to hear the details of the sensational case that had rocked their community. District Attorney Sarah Mitchell led the prosecution. She argued that Lucas's murder of Thomas Blackwood, while born out of a complex and toxic relationship, was still a premeditated act driven by anger and a desire for revenge. The hidden camera footage and Lucas's confession were presented as key evidence. The defense, led by attorney Alex Foster, didn't deny Lucas's involvement in the crime. Instead, they focused on the psychological impact of the abusive relationship and the manipulation Lucas had endured. Foster argued for a lesser charge, citing Lucas's mental state and the circumstances that led to the tragic event. Throughout the trial, Sophia Blackwood sat silently in the courtroom, her face a mask of grief and shock. The revelations about her role in the family's dysfunction had destroyed her reputation and ended her political ambitions. She was now a pariah in the community she had once hoped to lead. After 2 weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. On August 24, 2009, Lucas Blackwood was found guilty of second-degree murder. The jury determined that while Lucas had acted in a fit of rage, the killing was not premeditated to the degree required for a first-degree murder conviction. The judge sentenced Lucas to 20 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 15 years. As the sentence was read, Lucas stood silently, his eyes downcast. Sophia wept quietly in the gallery, the weight of her family's destruction finally sinking in. In the months following the trial, Springdale struggled to come to terms with the tragedy that had unfolded in their midst. The Blackwood case had exposed the dangers of secrets and lies, and the devastating impact they could have on individuals and communities alike. Lucas Blackwood began serving his sentence at the Colorado State Penitentiary. Reports suggested that he was quiet and withdrawn, focusing on completing his education through available programs and seeking counseling to address his emotional issues. Sophia Blackwood, her life and career in shambles, left Springdale shortly after the trial. She moved to a small town in another state, hoping to rebuild her life away from the scrutiny and judgment of those who had once respected her. The community of Springdale slowly began to heal. They held memorial services for Thomas Blackwood and support events for those affected by the crime. The tragedy served as a somber reminder of the hidden struggles that can exist behind closed doors, even in the most seemingly perfect families. As life in Springdale gradually returned to normal, the Blackwood case remained a poignant chapter in the town's history. It was a stark reminder of the destructive power of secrets and the importance of honesty and open communication in relationships. The story of Thomas Blackwood's murder and the unraveling of his family's facade would be remembered for years to come, a cautionary tale about the dangers of living a double life and the tragic consequences that can result from years of deception and manipulation.